What's going on YouTube? Omega Guilford here with a deck profile. I know it's been quite a while since my last video, but I've been working on a build for the past few months now. It's a 40 card Branded Chimera build, and without further ado, we'll get right into the video. So let's start off the Branded engine. We have the 2 Aluber, then we have the 2 Fallen of Albaz, and we have the 1 kit. I'm not running Mercurio just because I found that Mercurio oftentimes will be dead in hand because you usually don't end with a Fallen of Albaz fusion, so I opted to not play Mercurio, so the less bricks the better. Only 2 Aluber and 2 Albaz because you'll see there's some interesting text that I play in the deck that'll kind of circumvent a lot of the inconsistency that sometimes where you open up a lot of Alubers or Albaz, and we'll get to it in just a moment. And then for the branded spells, we have the triple branded opening, powerhouse card. I mean, it gets your combo started for free pretty much with just discarding 1 card, and it's a 1 card OTK pretty much. Then we have the triple branded fusion because it is a branded chimera build, and fusion is just an insane card. It's too good not to run. So that's it for the branded portion of it. Onto the illusion chimera portion, we have the 3 Quaddle. Quaddle is really good because it can get your combo started if you don't open up with swordsman or sword knight. Sorry, you can just search it out of your deck and continue your combo plays from there. And graveyard and slash on field effect is pretty good as well. Then we have the 3 mirror sword knights. Honestly, best normal summon in the deck. It gets around so many things. The fact that it attributes itself for cost, you can get around things like Imperm Veiler relatively easily, and the grave effect's really strong as well. And then we play 2 Gazelle. I know a lot of builds run the 1, but I found that sometimes when playing just the 1 Gazelle, you oftentimes need to have a second for follow-up, or else your Baphomet is a little bit more lackluster. And until game 2, when you side in your King Tiger Wanglu, the second Gazelle does come up quite a bit. And then speaking of Baphomet, we run 2 Baphomet. If you get its a summon effect off, it's pretty good. I mean, you essentially go +2 off of 1 card, and you really get your combo plays going from there. And then I'm running 3 of the Chimera Fusion. Initially, I was only playing 2, and I was going back and forth between 2 and 3. I found 3 to be the better choice, just because if your Baphomet gets stopped, you want to wait to still Chimera Fusion and continue your plays that way. So running the 3 for consistency does help out a lot. And again, this is a 40 card deck, so the chances of you seeing Chimera Fusion are relatively high. And then that's it for the Chimera package. Onto the Frightfur package, we run 3 Edgem Chain. Honestly, self-explanatory, gives you so much advantage, and the fact that it's a fiend as well helps with the Chimera Fusion, so you can keep your plays going like that. Then we run the 3 Frightfur Patchwork, instant +1. I mean, it replaces itself, it gets your fusions going if you don't open it up with any other fusion cards, so very strong. And then only 2 Polymerization. 3 is a little bit bricky, 2 is more than enough, especially because you can recycle it with the new fusion monster that you'll see in just a moment. And the added benefit to this is you can put it back to the bottom of the deck and then search it again with Patchwork, so the 3 is not necessary. For the interesting tech that I'm playing, I'm running 2 King of the Swamp. Now, I took this from tier limit builds just because I noticed that with King of the Swamp you can get into some interesting plays. Additionally, King of the Swamp can also count as Fallen of Albaz, so you can dump it off things like Branded Fusion. And additionally, you can, if you open no fusion spells and you open King of the Swamp, you can just ditch it to get yourself a poly and get your fusion plays going. And because it is a fusion deck, we're also running the 1 Dark Magician because Dragoon's too strong. I mean, it's self-explanatory. The fact that Dragoon is just such a boss monster that not a lot of decks have the outs to in the format, and also the fact that it gets bigger every time it negates is quite relevant as well. Okay, and then to round off the rest of the deck, we have 2 power spells. So just the 1 Talents and the 1 Call by the Grave, because again, Ashe isn't really an FTK against this deck, unlike Branded Despia. However, it is still pretty strong if they hit the right cards. So having that extra protection with Call by the Grave is definitely good. And then talents, only the one because it's a 40 card deck. It's not something that you really want to draw into going first. So having just the one copy also prevents you from drawing into another copy of itself when you get its effect off. And the last 3 cards, we're running triple Radiant, the multidimensional Kaiju. The reason we're running this Kaiju is because of a few things, namely purely because when they make their big exceed that's unaffected by the card effects, you need an out to it. And unfortunately, a lot of the cards in the deck don't out that card. And this Kaiju has the additional benefit of being a fiend. So you can use it off of your Chimera Fusion if you do open up with it going first. So it's not technically that bad of a brick. It is a decent card to draw and to out a lot of boards against cash. You know, you out there Arise cards. Their plays are a lot more lackluster and not as resilient. Against purely, you out there Noir, so it has a lot of uses. And that's it for the main deck. On to the extra deck, where because it is a Chimera build, we're running 2 Guardian Chimera. The second one does come up quite a bit because a lot of times turn 2 and 3, you know, you're making one on each turn, and the additional benefits of getting the draws and the pops is very strong. Then we're running one of the Chimera, the Illusion Beast. Just the one is more than enough FTK on itself. So if you open a Branded Fusion with this card, typically you can make it attack 2, 3, sometimes even 4 times depending on what you open with. So it's fairly strong. Then we're running 2 of the Phantom Beast Chimera Kings. The second one does come up quite a bit because the first one usually you want to kind of put pressure on your opponent, and then once they do deal with it, you want to use its effect Engrave to get out your Baphomet during your opponent's turn, so you can get follow-up for next turn. So it just generates a lot of pluses. And then onto the Branded Fusions, we have just 1 Mirror Jade. The second Mirror Jade doesn't really come up. If it does, then you're already losing that game typically, because with Mirror Jade, it's more so to put a little bit more pressure on your opponent. Then just the 1 Albion. Again, same thing. Albion, in this version of the deck, you don't really get much of its second benefits, which is the Grave effect. So you're mainly using it just for fusion summoning, and also because of the Branded Fusion. Then we have the 1 Lobelion. Same reason. You don't really need more than 1. Even if Cash does snipe it out of your extra deck, I mean, they have plenty of other cards that are threatening to them as well. So like the Dragoon, for instance, and the Illusion Chimera as well. Then just a 1 Rinbrum. One's more than enough. Sometimes the second one does come up, so I might explore running a second one in the future. However, just the 1 for now is good. And then we're running 1 of the Quertus. Quertus just because if you do end up ending with Albaz, with your Aluber, then you can always use Super Poly if it's game 2, because I cite Super Poly. Or you can make it on your turn, so you can protect your lower attack monsters from being destroyed by battle. So that's it for the Branded Despia fusions. And then on to the Miscellaneous fusions. We're running, of course, the 1 Dragoon. Second one's not necessary, one's plenty, puts enough pressure on your opponent. Then we're playing 1 of the Magnum, the Reloader. So this is what recycles your polys for your Frightfur fusions. That's why you don't need to run 3. Additionally, it's a pop, so it's a good interruption on itself. Then the 1 Dracostapella. So you can either flip-flop between making either of these on your turn 1, depending on what your hand situation is and what your end board is going to be. If you have little interruptions, or fewer interruptions rather, then maybe Dracostapella would be a little bit better, just because of reducing the monster's level and putting the Predaplant counter to negate their effects. Sometimes it's a little bit more relevant. However, the pop-off Reloader is really good as well. It gets around a lot of things, so it's a pretty good card. And then because we do run Super Poly in the extra deck, we have 1 Starving Venom. I don't have Garura, that's why I'm running the Starving Venom. And sometimes Starving Venom does come up a little bit more because you can use it to make stuff like Dragoon, which is another reason why you run King of the Swamp, because you can treat it as either Dragoon or Dark Magician or Red Eyes, so it helps with the fusions. And then the 1 Mud Dragon, and that's pretty much it for the extra deck. The deck's still in the testing phases, so feel free to give me any advice or any suggestions that you may have. As always, this has been Omega Guilford. Peace!